Morning, everybody. It's David coming at you from Zone 5B in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. And we are going to get hot today. This is the first time this summer that we will hit 90 degrees for more than one day. So I did want to address some of the things you might want to do before we do that. The roses are starting to die back a little, but we do have these other beautiful flowers that are starting. We had a little accident with our sunflower here. It was prematurely pulled up. I did try to repot it to see if I could get it to survive, and it's not doing too well. But over here on the south side of the house, we had a tree that got knocked down in the wind apparently. Get that back in place. But I uppotted my grapevine last week, so it's in a larger container, and it already looks like it's grown quite a bit since I uppotted it. My blueberries, I just added some more sulfur to the soil. I don't think it was acidic enough. My Meyer lemon looks like it's doing really well. We have nice, beautiful new leaves on our banana plant, and you guys should remember this little baby in the front, but now this little baby has started in the back. So the ideal is the big one in the middle is the one that produces the bananas for this season. And then once it has done that and you harvest them, you cut it down. And then this next biggest one will be the one for next year. And then the little one in the back for the previous year, or for the year after that, and it goes on and on. I do have a couple of blueberries on this blueberry plant, and some blueberries forming on this one as well. And then if you look at some of my fruit trees, they've really grown here in the summer. I'm looking forward to pruning them late summer to try and encourage the growth that we're going to have next year, to direct its energy and kind of shape it. Our peach here on the peach tree is getting a little bigger. I should probably take one of these three off just so the other two will get a little bit bigger. And then the rest of our fruit trees, we do have a lot of new growth, even on these new trees that I just uppotted a couple weeks ago. And you can still see, if you look closely, even though it's rained here a lot, you can still see some of that kaolin clay that I sprayed on them last week, still on there. And at the time when I sprayed, it was mostly for protection against bugs and pests. But I did mention the sun as well. And I know you're thinking, David, don't plants need sun to grow? And they do. They absolutely do need sun to grow. And you see the tomatoes are getting huge. But just like for us, too much sun, or too much direct sun, too much intense sun, can be a bad thing for the plants as well. So the kaolin clay I mentioned last week, that can offer a little sun protection. It can bring the temperature down. It can cool them down a little bit. But with the 95, 90 degree temperatures the next few days, I wanted to go the extra step. You see I do have a bunch of tomatoes starting here. And you might notice a little difference in size. The tomatoes on this side are all indeterminate tomatoes, so they will keep growing throughout the season and will probably reach the top of the trellis. A lot of the tomatoes I have on this side are my determinate tomatoes, which means they only grow to a certain size. They produce all of their tomatoes. So you see a bunch of smaller tomatoes on this one, and then they produce them all around the same time and they'll die. They don't continue to grow. They're more bush style tomatoes. And this is my paste tomato. I believe these are my Romas. So that is to be expected. They are all looking really good. So where I did add some extra protection yesterday for the next few days is in my, and what I did is I added some shade cloth. Shade cloth is designed just to reduce the intensity of the sun, the length of the sun. It should help cool the plants down a little as well, and just hopefully reduce some of the stress on them so they continue to grow really, really well. If you remember my video from just a couple weeks ago, I had just gotten these cucumber plants put on these strings, and you can see they are already growing immensely. These are huge. I have basil as a companion plant in between that's growing really, really well. You can still see the kaolin clay on there. My grapevines, I have a ton of grapes on my new vines that I just planted this year as well. Over here, I do have corn. Unfortunately, it looks like I think I only planted 9 corn plants, corn seeds, because that's all I had. And not all of them germinated, but the ones that have are really growing. Again, the old wives' tale, knee high by the 4th of July. Kind of a growing idea for corn, and I think we're probably going to get there. We are only at, what, June 21st here, and they're already looking really good. I have some beans over there. My other grapevine over here on the pepper plants in my pepper bed. I have a lot of sweet banana peppers that are growing. I have some really monster sized ones, so I'm just waiting for them to turn yellow. On my shishito plant over here, we have a ton of peppers that we're just waiting to ripen up. And then on my ground cherry plants here, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you because of the shade cloth, but it is starting to produce as well. And I know that I noticed some ground cherries here. You can see right here, they look like little tomatillos. They are produced in a little husk. And then when they're ripe, they'll drop. There's no guessing with the ground cherry. They drop off the plant when they're ripe. You have to be quick to pick them up, because if you don't, they will reseed themselves, which is what we're seeing over in the my ground cherries on this far end of the larger bed last year. And all those little sprouts that you see there on the ground are self-seeded ground cherry harvest. So the weather's been so weird. I'm just now getting some germination from the extra pepper plants. I did want to try to grow a sweet purple bell pepper. I did want to get some Jimmy Nardellos in here, so they're just starting to sprout. I don't know if we're going to have time to let them grow. And one other thing that I'm really excited about, because this is my first year growing it, over here is my broccoli. And if you look in the middle, it is starting to head up. So I'm very excited about the broccoli. When you garden, it's super important that you do a garden walkthrough every day if you can. If not every day, at least every couple of days. And what you're going to look for is change in your garden. My little broccoli here is not doing too good. I do have a beet here that's doing really well. I have some Brussels sprouts that I put in here. But as I was doing my walkthrough, and you're not going to see it because I tore it off, I did see damage. Oh, here we have a little damage on this one. On this little leaf here. See that little clear line? That is caused by a bug that's called a leaf miner. For leaf miners, the damage is mostly cosmetic, but with my plants being so young, I really wanted to get the leaf miners off of there. So I did prune off the affected leaves, and then I sprayed it with some neem oil. I will post a picture of the neem oil here so you can see what I used. You see my marigolds are growing out of control here. And underneath the marigolds, you're not going to be able to see it very well. I do have some cantaloupe starts. I do have room for some more eggplants, and I have those germinated on my table on the deck, which I'll show you in a minute. I have some radishes that I popped in here. And over here, just under my bean plant right now, is watermelon. So good. So the idea behind shade cloth is to protect the plants so they don't sun scald when we hit those 95-degree temperatures, those 100-degree temperatures, especially over an extended period of time. It's going to hopefully cool them down a little bit. It's going to prevent a little stress on the plant. And the problem with stress is it may not kill your plant, but even for tomatoes that are tropical plants that like it warm, if you have too many days in the 90s, it can cause flower drop. And those flowers, of course, are what become your fruit. So we don't want to do that. So if I can throw up a little shade cloth that blocks 20 or 30% of the UV rays, and it helps my plants grow bigger and stronger, then it's definitely worth it. If you don't throw up shade cloth, maybe your plants are going to be fine. It really depends on your area, depends on the health of your plants, depends on a lot of factors. And that's what I keep saying. You know, there's a saying, if you ask 50 experts their opinion, you're liable to get 50 different answers, right? And that is never more true than in the gardening community. I'm in these gardening groups on Facebook, and people come out all the time and ask questions that seem simple, like what is this bug, or should I prune my tomatoes? And they are actually inundated with dozens of different replies. So again, I've mentioned it before, garden your way. Do what you want to do. If it works, then it's success, and you can share that information if you want. If it doesn't work, then adjust, because it could be a lot of little things that go wrong. I'm not a huge pruner of my tomatoes. See my tomatoes over in this bunch. I do prune down below to keep airflow going. So I see a couple branches that actually need to prune, and this is something you need to stay on top of if you're going to try to do. But I don't generally one single leader. I do let some of my suckers grow, which causes the bulb more wild looking, a little bushier. But as long as I get tomatoes, that's what really matters to me. And speaking of tomatoes, so a tomato flower is considered a perfect flower. That means that it has both male and female parts. So tomatoes generally won't require pollinators. The wind is usually enough to spread the pollen in the flower and then produce the tomatoes. Some people believe in going around and helping the flowers along. And you can do that by giving them a shake as you're walking through your garden, and that just helps the pollen get to the parts that it needs to get to. Other ways that you can help your tomatoes along would be to use an electric toothbrush on it, and just the subtle vibration from that toothbrush, pollen. Since we are going to hit those 90-degree days, I'm also going to put out a kiddie pool, put a little water in it for the chickens. Don't overheat, because they spend the day out here. Their coops are left open, so they will go in the coop if it gets hot. They do hang out under the deck as well. I want to show you my potatoes. This is kind of cool. Potato vines will actually flower, and you may actually even see a seed form on the plants. That seed, you could plant it, but from what I've read, from what I've been told, you're not guaranteed to get the exact same kind of tomato. Or potato, sorry. So I don't know that I would do that on the deck. I have my peppers, or not my peppers, my onions. I bought onion starts. They've been in for a couple weeks. I have carrots. I don't do well with carrots. I do have a couple little carrots germinated. And this is my wildflowers, trying to attract pollinators. I didn't harvest my radishes in time, so they have gone to flower. And they will go to seed. I'm hoping that helps well. And just a couple more things that I wanted to show you guys and address with you guys. I do have, all my stuff is looking really, really good. I'm working on the beet thing. I just don't have very much luck with beets either. So I'm really excited that I do have that beet forming down in the garden. Now, my strawberries in my green stalk here. I bought a bunch of bare root strawberries from Stark Brothers, which is where I buy a lot of my plants from. And unfortunately, 7 or 8 of them were dead. They just didn't survive. I did call Stark Brothers, and they were out for the season, so they gave me a refund super fast. But then I turned around and ordered from Burpees just this last week. So I was surprised to see that Burpees actually had them still. So these little ones that you see here are the ones I just up-potted from Burpees. They looked really good. You do get 25 when you order. So I have plenty extra. I threw a couple in the garden bed out there. I threw a couple here. So I'm just going to see. This is really my first time growing strawberries too. Greenhouse. Always trying to start something. So I have one of the tomato suckers that I removed, and I put it in a glass of water, and it is rooting nicely, so I can get that potted up, and that will become its own tomato plant. And then I did the same thing with some basil that I cut off, and you see the roots forming on there. I just put some Thai basil in this pot yesterday. I'm gonna have to make sure I keep it watered. And then over here, I'm still trying to germinate seeds. So these are some of the things that I just either haven't germinated yet or I had problems with earlier. So you see pineapple, ground cherry, jalapeno, some more Jimmy Nardellos, and some strawberries. Because I continue to order seeds. You gotta admit, buying seeds and gardening is, so for me, I will continue to do it probably way too late in this. All right, I do have some starts here. I have some eggplants, so that can go in that vacant spot in the raised garden bed. I have some more tomatoes that I grew, and I'm really bad at labeling, so I don't know what kind of tomatoes they are. I do have another eggplant here, a cantaloupe that I was going to put in the garden, but now those down there are actually germinating. Over here I have okra. And in this little planter, and this is just a dollar store planter. So I think I paid maybe $5 for it from Dollar Tree. And I'm using this for herbs. So I have thyme, sage. I don't think I did rosemary cuttings, but all my herbs are going in there. So again, just a quick garden update before it gets too hot here in Zone 5B. There's a nice breeze blowing now. And again, if you go on the internet, if you go on help groups and you ask a question for gardening or really for any hobby, you're going to get a bunch of different answers. And I'm not saying that any of them are wrong. They can all be right in their own way, but it might not be right about your situation. So I'm a big fan of using the Jujel machine, as my coworker used to call it, Googling information and going to sources that I trust. But a lot of gardening is going to be dependent on where you are. So again, it's okay to ask for advice, but it's also okay to do things your way and see what works for you. See what works for your raised bed or your in-ground garden or for your bucket garden or for your zone or for your neighborhood. We all live in different areas. We're all exposed to different light intensities and length of day. So not everything's going to work for everybody. And that's something you need to really be cautious of when you're looking for answers and advice on the internet, that the person who's responding to you may mean really, really, really well. And they may be in the state of Illinois, but the state of Illinois is so big, it's so long north to south, that they could be in a completely different zone than me. They could be under completely different sun conditions and sun intensities. So what works for them may not work for me. So don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to try something weird. You know, I've seen videos of people who bury food scraps directly in the garden, and most experts would say that's a bad idea. You know, you compost first, you throw in a compost pile, you let it decompose, you let it compost, you let it cool down, and there's people that it works for them. So don't be afraid to be yourself when it comes to gardening. And that comes down to what you're growing, how you're growing, where you're growing. Gardening, again, is not a one-size-fits-all thing. If you want to throw up some shade cloth like I did, plants and reduce stress, throw up some shade cloth. If you don't want to throw up the shade cloth, then don't. What happens? I think gardening and growing is a big experiment. You know, we buy seeds, we put them in what we think is the best soil, we get them in the conditions that we think are best, and then we just see what happens. And that daily garden walkthrough is going to help you a lot to determine what works and what doesn't. And with a lot of these things, if you catch it soon enough, if it's not working, you can try again. You can get your backup plants that I have on my table there, you can get them out in the garden and still have really, really good results. So again, this video ended up being a little longer than I intended. Yes, I do talk about garden protection again, because protection is super important. It's important for our skin, so make sure you use sunscreen, especially when you hit those hot temperatures like we are this week. It's important for our plants, whether it's the kaolin clay that I will reapply. I have to check the weather to make sure it's going to be dry for a couple days so I can reapply it. Whether it's the shade cloth or keeping them covered or keeping them just secured on those really windy, stormy days that we're going to have this summer. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll probably have a short video for you all tomorrow as well. Thank you all for watching my videos. Again, if you watch the video, you like what you see, please hit that like button. It helps my algorithms. Subscribe if you like my content. Share my content. Help spread the word. Help get me out there so more people can see and hear my message. I'm a big proponent of gardening. I'm a big proponent of grow at home. And I know that there's probably a way to do it that'll fit just about everybody out there. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you stay protected, use your sunscreen, wear your hats, get out, enjoy the weather, enjoy the summer, because it is passing by really, really fast as we are already towards the end of June here. And I thank you all. Thank you guys, and I hope to see you guys here real soon back at Come Grow with David A. Have a good weekend. I'll talk to you later.